All right, here's a good question, and it just will show you the different ways you can solve a quadratic equation. And you need to be able to sort of move back and forth between all of these, because sometimes you can factor things and sometimes you can't, and you have to use some other tools. And these are some of them. There's other tools you can solve too. So first way I want to solve this question is by using the quadratic formula. What I like to do is I like to put brackets in where all the variables are. And this way I don't make any mistakes, or I make fewer mistakes with negative signs. Okay, so I've got all the brackets in. Now I plug in b. b is 1. B is 1 again. A is a 3. And c is a -2. That's where I often would make a mistake. All over 2 times a is a 3. Okay. So now in figuring this out, I'll have -1 plus or minus square root of 1 squared. Minus 4 times 3 is -12. -12 times -2 is positive 24. Ooh, that's going to be pretty. All over 6. So x equals -1 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 6. So x equals -1 plus or minus 5 over 6. So that gives me two answers. So -1 plus 5 over 6 and -1 minus 5 over 6. And to finish that, -1 plus 5 would be 4. 4 divided 6 is 2/3. I'm running out of room. So I get 2/3 for that one. For this one, -1 minus 5 is -6 divided by 6. Oh, that would be -1. So -1 and 2/3 would be my two answers. Now, I should get the exact same answer regardless of which way I solve this. Here's graphing, just for instance. I took that equation up there and I graphed it. So I graphed y equals 3x squared. Whoops, I need a squared there. Whoops. 3x squared plus x minus 2. And when I graphed that, it crossed the x-axis there and there. This one's -1, which I got there, and this one looks to be about 2/3 of the way, so it looks like that correlates with what I got when I used the quadratic formula. Now you can also factor. So factoring, you can use the AC method or the guess and check method. I like the guess and check method. So I'm going to put two brackets together, and since this is 3x squared, I'm splitting it into a 3x there and an x there. And then the 2, I have to split into either a 2 here and a 1 there, or a 1 here and a 2 there. Those would be different ways of doing things. And then I also have to worry about signs, whether this should be a positive or a negative, and same thing over on those other ones. Okay, and just looking at it, I'm going to rule this one out, because this one's 3x squared, know that. But then this times this is 6x and a 1x. There's no way I'm going to get a 1x out of that, because 6 minus 1 or 6 plus 1 is going to be not 1. So I don't think it's going to be this one. So I'm going with this top one. Since this sign is positive, the bigger of this or this has to be positive. So 3x times 1 is bigger than 2 times x. So this one I'm going to make positive. This one I'm going to make negative. Now, just to make sure I'm doing that right, I'm just going to check that. So 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 1 is a positive 3x. -2 times x is a -2x. -2 times that is a -2. When I add these together, it gives me positive 1x, which is what I needed. So that means that this factoring is correct. Okay, let me get rid of this. Okay, so I factored it, and now I need to solve. And I use a zero property. Something times something equals 0. One of them's got to be 0. So either this one is 0 or this one is 0. Moving the 2 to the other side and making it positive, and then dividing by 3, I get 2/3, same as what I had before. And moving the 1 over, I get a -1. Okay, so that's guess and check factor. You can also do the AC method. So if I have 3x squared plus x minus 2, then AC method says take the A and multiply it by C. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And find two numbers that multiply to negative 6 and add to a positive 1. So your answer would be 3 and negative 2 for that. And so then what you do is you take and you replace this middle term with those two numbers. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3x squared plus 3x minus 2x minus 2. So that thing there splits into those two. Okay, equals 0. And then I group factor. Group this guy, group this guy. So I'm going to factor 3x out of the first two, leaving me with an x plus 3. No, x plus 1. Oops. X plus 1. And then I'm going to take a negative 2 out of this one, so it's negative 2, and inside it'd be left with x plus 1. Careful with your signs there, is equal to 0. Now this and this have to be identical. If they're not, I did something wrong up there. Okay, so now I've got one term here and one term there. Each of them have an x plus 1, so I could factor that out. And if I factor that out of each of those, then I'm left with 3x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, so I factored it, and now I can set each one equal to 0 and solve each of them, and you'll see that you're coming up with the same answer each way. Okay, and it's good to be able to do all of those. Okay, hopefully that helps, just giving you some examples of different ways of solving a quadratic equation. There's others too, but those are sort of the main ones.